On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks fall to the Atlanta Hawks. Is the season done? Has it already been done? Do the Mavericks believe it's done? We'll talk about that and more in today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. I'm Nick Angstadt, host of Locked On NBA, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day, whether they win or not. Subscribe for free and follow wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to listen every day and then comment on YouTube anything below. Let us know in the comment section. What did you want to happen? You're watching Mavs Hawks and you're like, what did you want to happen? Did you want the JAVALE MCGEE free throws to go down? Did you want them to not go down? What did you want to happen? I'm curious what people think. Appreciate all of you guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Isaac Harris out with some family things today. And today, we're going to get into the Mavericks game against the Hawks. We'll talk about that, how they won that, how they lost that game, which is just insane. We'll talk about the Christian Wood, JAVALE MCGEE pairing, because that sort of came out of nowhere, but it also been something people have been asking for. But also, did it work? Had it worked before? Where did that come from? We'll talk about that. And Josh Green, Kyrie Irving, Luka, obviously all kinds of different things from this game to dive into. But I want to start here because this is sort of where you start with this team, the Dallas Mavericks. Every time you think about this team, I'm sure every time you've thought about this team, I'm sure every time you've talked about the Dallas Mavericks with somebody else in your life, you probably just look at each other and go, are they done? Are they done? Like, is it over? And after the Heat game, Isaac and I did a post game. You can go listen to that if you haven't listened to that episode already, where we talked about this team doesn't believe. This team doesn't believe in themselves. You can even see it like in a game like this, where it goes to overtime. There's moments where they have a chance to just take this game and they just don't. There's moments where, you want to see some fight, and they saw some of it, but then hustles, things, you just didn't see it at times. Didn't look like a team that their season was on the line. Now, they had some great moments in this game, for sure. But is this season, are they done? I think internally, the coach has been done with this team and this roster for a while. I think that he thinks he doesn't have any more cards to play. Now, he played the Wood and JAVALE card in this game, and it really seemed to really work out. We'll talk about that a little later. But I think he's been done with this roster. Doesn't believe to the degree that he walked into the season with. I believe this team can, make a run. I believe this team can win a playoff series, make the playoffs, do whatever you think, and can beat any team in a playoff series, can, beat any team in a play-in game. Whatever you thought, whatever Jason Kidd thought about this team at the beginning of the season or even parts during the season, I think at this point in the season, he doesn't believe that anymore. That's just my opinion on it. That's what I think, just from watching, listening, all that kind of stuff. The team, the players themselves, I think they checked out a little bit too. They're going to still play hard. They still have some pride. They still have some shame when they go out there. And they still, the season's kind of alive, but deep down, I don't think Luka believes that this team, he feels great about this team going into a playoff series or a play-in scenario or anything like that. And so it's just kind of letting the season run a little bit. Is the season done? Now, deep sigh. There are still scenarios in which the Dallas Mavericks still make a play-in game. Those still exist. So the Dallas Mavericks have 3 games left. The team that they're looking at, the Thunder, they also have 3 games left. That's the team that you're really looking at as, okay, we have a chance here to pass you. The Mavericks are a game back of the Thunder right now. The Mavericks do not own the tiebreaker between them and the Thunder. Mavericks were 1-2 against the Thunder this year. So if you look at the scenarios, if the Mavericks go 3-0 in their last 3 games here, OKC has to go, what do they have to go? They have to go 1-2. So they have to lose at least 2 games. They just lost to the Suns tonight on Sunday. So they have to lose 2 more games. They can only win one. OKC can only win 1 more game. Now, if OKC goes, 0-3 in their last, the Mavericks can go 2-1 in their last 3 games here. Now, looking at that and just looking at the standings and doing standings watch, it's been hard for me to just look at the standings and go, okay, these are the scenarios and this is what has to happen, because the Mavericks have to fix themselves. They gotta be Michael Jackson, the man in the mirror. Like, you gotta look at the man in the mirror first and figure out what's going on with your team and your stuff and your problems and your defense and your will to win and all that. You gotta figure that out first. Your rotations. You gotta figure out that first before I can even start looking at the standings. But for fans, that's what it is. That's the situation for the Mavericks. They basically have to win out and hope that the Thunder lose 2 more games. Because the Mavericks lost in this game and the Thunder also lost in their game. So they have to hope for that, because they have to have a better record than the Thunder. They cannot tie with the Thunder. They tie with the Thunder, they don't make the play-in. So that's where they are now. Then you look at the inverse of that. Where are the Mavs in the lottery odds right now? Because that's this whole component back and forth between where I think the fan base is right now. I don't think a lot of people in the fan base are still dying for a play-in game. Please correct me in the YouTube comments or on Twitter if I'm wrong. If you're someone that's like, we still got to make the play-in. Just got to make it. Just got to be in the postseason. Have to at least make it. Let me know. I don't think a lot of Mavs fans are wanting for this season to continue. Basically, they're kind of done with this team and want to reset over the offseason. But for the lottery odds, the Mavericks are now 1.5 games, air quotes, up on the Bulls in the lottery standings. The Mavericks are 10th in the lottery standings right now, if you look at it right now. And that means that they have about a 79.8% chance, about an 80% chance to keep their pick, which would be amazing. They desperately need that. They desperately need to keep that pick. And I'm sure you listening probably would rather them keep the pick than just make a play-in and possibly lose a play-in game. But that's where they are right now. They have about a 14% chance to get in the top 4 and about a 3% chance to get the number 1 pick with Wembanyama at stake. And then they also have about a 66% chance to get the 10th pick overall. That's the most likely scenario, is they just get the 10th pick. They, right now, again, are 1.5 games up on the Bulls. They play the Bulls in the second to last game of the season. The Mavericks are... the difference between finishing below the Bulls in the lotteries and the lottery standings, so the inverse standings, and finishing with a better record than the Bulls or a worse record than the Bulls is about a 70% chance difference. If the Mavericks have a worse record than the Bulls, they finish 10th, 80% chance to keep their pick. If the Mavericks finish 11th in the lottery standings and finish with a better record than the Bulls, they have about a 9% chance to keep their pick. That Bulls game is going to be fascinating. Fascinating for the Mavericks and for the Bulls. They each have another game left after that. Bulls have 4 games left, so a lot can change. They could be pretty much tied by the time that game happens. But those are the 2 scenarios you're looking at. Is the Mavericks season done? No. The answer is no. They still have a play-in scenario that they're still very much alive, I guess is the way that I can put it. They are mathematically alive. I'll put it that way. Theoretically, mathematically, they are still alive in the play-in. They could still make the play-in, finish with a better record than the Thunder. The Thunder's schedule over the last 3 games is not easy. They play at Golden State, they play at Utah, and they play home against Memphis. Not easy. Memphis may be done by that time. They're 2 games up on the Kings right now. They may be done by then, but they also may need that game. The Mavericks' last 3 games is home for Sacramento, home for the Bulls, which is, again, that wild tanking potential game, and then home for the Spurs. So the Maverick season is not done. They still have 2 very real scenarios, and let me know in the comment section which one you'd rather have. Would you rather them pack it up, go for the tank, or try and get that play in where you're facing either? I mean, at this point, it looks like it's going to be the Timberwolves. I guess the Timberwolves could all fall out too. Timberwolves, it's a long shot. They'd have to lose their last 3, I guess, and and all that. But that's a long shot. But the Mavericks would probably face the Timberwolves in a play-in game. Would you rather that, or would you rather them have an 80% chance to keep their pick? It's a wild choice that they have to make right now, but that's where they are. Coming up, let's talk about this game against the Hawks. How did the Mavericks come back? I mean, a legitimate comeback. They were down 76-91 and came back to force overtime and then lose in overtime. We'll talk about that. But before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy, and you can check it out on prizepicks.com. You can use the promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. They have all kinds of stuff. They have baseball. Baseball starting up. The Rangers looking good, huh? You can go see what they have available for baseball, for Rangers, and you just pick like over under. Right now, they only have a couple of, you can do like hits plus runs plus RBIs. So right now I can pick, there's no Rangers up at the moment, but there will be by the time you look at it. Jonathan India of the Cincinnati Reds, 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. Cody Bellinger of the Cubs, 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. So that could be a fun thing where you just put both those guys up there. Let's say I'm going to go over on both of those, go more than 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. Put down $20, I can win 60. If I put down 100, I can win 300. You can play all kinds of different things. Again, check it out. See what's available at prizepicks.com. Promo code locked on. All right, Isaac. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us, being part of the show. I appreciate each and every one of you. Mavericks play 3 more home games this season. I will have stickers. I will be in section 123 hanging out. You can get your very own Mavs, Locked On Mavs sticker / condom, whatever you think they look like. You can get one of those. Come say hi to me in those last 3 games if you're going to any of them. Love to hear from you guys and see what you think about this team. All right, let's get into this game. Mavericks lose 130-132. And this was a wild game. I texted Isaac twice during this game. One time I said, this game is insane. And then about 30 minutes later, I said, sorry, I texted that before the game had actually gotten insane. This was a wild one. Mavericks, it's hard to know where to start with this game. I guess you start with the Mavericks were down 76-91. It was just not going the Mavericks' way. The Hawks were scoring anything in the paint. They finished the game with 70 points in the paint. The Mavericks scored 68 points in the paint, but they allowed 70 points in the paint to the Hawks. Hawks early were hitting a bunch of threes to start the game. They were like 7 of 10 from 3. It's the defense again. It's the same thing we've been talking about. Same thing we just talked about against the Heat. This Mavericks defense cannot allow them to sustain any kind of run. None. Any kind of run. 5-0 run, 10-0 run, nothing. They can't sustain it because their defense is not good enough. And so they get down in this game, and the Hawks go on a run in the third quarter. Hawks get it up to a 15-point lead. Again, it was 76-91. And then Jason Kidd decides to put JaVale McGee, who had not played the entire game, decides to put him and Christian Wood in at the same time. He's like, F it.
It's a nice penetrating thrust.
He's like, F it. Let's just put in this lineup that we have not seen at all really this season. We've seen 43 possessions of this duo play together, and that's not a lot. That's basically nothing. Half a game of possessions. And over a course of a full season, basically. And so we put it out there, and then the Mavericks were, they outscored the Hawks 54-41 through the end of the game after that point. So he found something that worked. And the one thing that Kidd has done this season that I do think he's done a good job at is he's found, he's stuck with the hot hand, whether it's Jaden Hardy, Tim Hardaway Jr., whoever it is, Christian Wood at times. Like, he's stuck with the hot hand. He's like, okay, this is working. I'm going to stick with it. He's not just been so stuck on his rotations that he just ignores somebody that's doing well. Now, finding guys that are doing well, that has been difficult. Finding rotations that work, finding lineups that work against some teams, but that was working well for them. Mavericks are playing this Hawks team that has just been weird since about January 14th. They are literally 500. They win a game, they lose a game. They win a game. They had not won or lost a game in succession like since January 14th. And the Hawks had just lost a game. So they're playing against this Hawks team that was playing at home. Mavericks on the second night of a back-to-back. And the Hawks went on their run in the third quarter. Mavericks put in this big lineup. And what this big lineup did was it basically allowed the Mavericks to start rebounding. it's kind of sometimes it's easy. They were able to just complete defensive possessions. They were able to just complete, get some second chance points. Second half, Mavericks had 23 rebounds. Hawks had 24 rebounds. It's not about winning the rebounding battle. It's just about being competent on that end. Isaac would agree with me. It's just about being competent on that end and finishing possessions and then getting some extra stuff from your team. And then the Mavericks second half, 4 of 12 from 3. They were winning in a different way than we had seen before. They were winning in this game, getting to the paint, finishing in the paint. Mavericks had 32 points in the second half in points in the paint. I'm just looking at second half numbers, by the way, because that's when we mostly saw JaVale and Christian Wood. They entered the game about halfway through the third quarter. The Mavericks try this lineup. It starts working. Other things there's so many ways I can go with this game. The Mavericks find that it starts working. They basically play Christian Wood, JaVale McGee, Josh Green, who we'll mention in the third segment, Kyrie Irving, and Luka. From the middle of the third quarter to like the end of the game. They do one sub where they put Reggie Bullock in for a defensive possession. Other than that, they rode with this lineup and they just tried it. They just went with it. And we got some good stuff. There was a moment in the third quarter, about the 3-minute mark, 4-minute mark, where I just said the Mavs look competent. They just look competent. You're big out there. You have, JaVale McGee behind. You have Christian Wood, who's just, big. And they're playing against a Hawks team that I think allowed them to play this kind of lineup because you don't have any dynamic wings, really. DeAndre Hunter was not in this game. Bogdanovich, more of a guard. Your wings you're playing against are like, I guess, John Collins, Jalen Johnson, AJ Griffin, Sadiq Bey was the other starting wing. Like, you're not playing against these dynamic wings that are just going to kill you. And so you can play Christian Wood at the 4. You can't against a lot of teams. You just can't at times. And you're not playing against a center that can score, really, either in Capella or Okongwu. They finished some stuff, but they had a lot of putbacks and a lot of finishes on alley-oops and things. They're not going to post up. So this Hawks team allows you to play those two bigs. So if I'm looking at this lineup, and talk about it a little bit later, but if you're looking at this lineup and saying, was this the answer? Was this? It was the answer for this game. I don't know if you can get away with it against some other teams, but I think it could help. But in this game, though, it comes down to just what a Mavericks game always comes down to. Last second, it was another clutch game, and like 10 seconds left, Luka kicks the ball to Christian Wood. He's on the left wing. He drives, gets fouled at the rim, goes 1 of 2 from the free throw line. The Mavericks are down 1. Ball gets tipped out of bounds. The refs review it. Mavericks get the ball. They inbound it. JaVale McGee gets fouled before the ball even touches his hands. That means they get free throws. JaVale goes 1 of 2 at the free throw line. He hits both those free throws. The Hawks only have 0.4 left to get a shot off. Wild stuff to end this game. And JaVale McGee had a great quote after this game about that moment. He said, quote, "In hindsight, that's what movies are made of. Not playing the whole season, then coming down to you hitting those 2 free throws for the win. Unfortunately, I missed one of them and went into overtime. Yeah, that movie's going straight to DVD. It's not coming out."
JaVale McGee.
Great quote from JaVale McGee about how this season went. And it's wild that I said it during the game, this lineup being the lineup that is like in there to save the Mavs season, to keep the Mavs season alive, is insane because it's the 2 guys the Mavericks brought in the offseason. And the 2 guys that I think people have argued about maybe the most this entire season in the Mavs fan base. JaVale McGee, first of all, why is he starting? Why did they sign into that contract? Then why is he still playing? Why is he out there? Then they bench him, and then they're like, why is he not playing? Why are they not just trying him? And with Christian Wood, he's the most argued about player that I've maybe ever seen on the Mavericks, where it's, why aren't they using him? Why aren't they closing with him? Why isn't he starting? It's been all this stuff. And these 2 guys, these 2 figures kind of represent this Mavericks season, in that it had good intentions, but they came in and it just didn't work. It just hasn't worked. Coming up, let's talk about that lineup a little bit more, Wood and JaVale. But then there's so many other things in this game I want to talk about, including Luka's defense, Josh Green, Kyrie Irving with his Mavericks season high. He was a huge factor in how this game was even a game. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar. Tastes like a candy bar. They're delicious. I just ordered another box. I spend my real money that I probably make doing Built Bar reads to then give it back to Built Bar to give me protein bars, because I'm looking to, like, not fix my diet, but improve my diet all the time. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's a better snack than some chips or something different? And Built Bar. Built is the one. The Built Puffs, I love them. They're my favorite ones. They have like marshmallow filling in the middle, 100% chocolate on the outside. The Brownie Batter Puffs are delicious. They are my favorite bar. I'd almost rather have them than a normal candy bar because 6 grams of sugar. They don't leave you with that like gritty feeling on your teeth. You're not like feeling real bad because you ate a bunch of sugar. I know, if you're getting older, this is stuff you have to worry about. 140 calories, 17 grams of protein, 6 grams of sugar. Go check it out. Again, built.com. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them at Sam's Club. So go check them out. Again, built.com. Built Bar. All right, Isaac. Thanks, everybody, for being part of the show. We appreciate you. If you listen to this show 5 days a week, you're part of the Raccoon Squad. I appreciate you. You help make this podcast happen. And I'd love to meet you at a game if you get out to the last 3 home games. Talked about the Christian Wood, JAVALE McGee lineup. That was the big story of the game because they went with it. They went with it for a long time. Middle of the third quarter, all the way through basically the end. They just stuck with that lineup. You look at like the second half. Look at the second half minutes. They're kind of crazy. Kyrie, 21 and a half minutes. Luka, 21 minutes. Josh Green, 19 minutes. JAVALE McGee, 18 minutes. Christian Wood, 18 minutes. Jaden Hardy, 6. Tim Hardaway, 6. Reggie Bullock, 4. Dwight Powell, 3.5. Maxi Kleba, 220 minutes in the second half. Just a weird game. They found something that worked. They went with it. It just didn't work out in the end because the Mavericks defense couldn't sustain anything. But the reason why they were in this game at all, I think I got to start with Kyrie Irving. Kyrie was aggressive early on. Kyrie had 20 points in the first, I don't know, at least the first half, but through the first 5 minutes of the second quarter, like in the first like 17 minutes of the game, he had 20 points already. He was aggressive early, and an aggressive Kyrie has yielded good results for the Mavericks this season. When he's aggressive early, it gives the Mavericks a better chance. When he kind of defers a lot, it just doesn't work. This Mavericks offense is just predicated on Luka or Kyrie or Dinwiddie at the time. Dinwiddie at the time. There's my dog downstairs. It's storming. Or Dinwiddie at the time of just isolation basketball over and over and over again. And it doesn't have a lot. They don't have a lot of actions built in. There's not a lot of ball movement things built in. They've tried the up-tempo stuff, but you have to start with one guy. And if Kyrie was he's got to play a little more selfish. He's just got to play a little bit more selfish. At times for this Mavericks team, for this iteration. Now, going forward, you can hopefully up the tempo, change some things, all that. But Kyrie was great. Finished the game with 41 points, his Mavericks career high. Shot the ball 59%. Usually that has equaled the Dallas Mavericks win. It almost did in this one, but loved what I saw from him. He's just got to be him. He's just got to be aggressive, and that really helps the Dallas Mavericks out. He had a play at the very end of overtime with about 1.8 seconds left. He fouls Trae Young. Trae Young flopped so hard on that. You got to give him credit because he got it. He got it off. He got the flop off, and he got him. Foul on Kyrie, and then that basically sealed the game for him. Also want to talk about Luka because Luka, he's been frustrating this season, right? If you've watched the Dallas Mavericks, he has been frustrating to watch because you just see greatness in him, and you see him go off for 40. He only had 22 in this game, didn't shoot the ball well. Second night of a back-to-back, he's going to struggle for sure. He played heavy minutes the night before, played 44 minutes in this one. Be interested to see if they even play in that next game against the Kings. We'll see what the Mavericks really are thinking about that game. But the thing about Luka Doncic in this game is that he played good defense. In the fourth quarter and overtime, the Hawks over and over and over again isolated on him. Like switched, like he switched, like got switched onto DeJounte Murray, got switched onto Trae Young, and he played good defense against those guys. We've seen Luka. We've seen him play good defense at times. We've seen him play last season going into the playoffs. We said Luka's kind of an underrated defender because he knows where to be. He's big. You can't push him off of his spot. He's got great hands. And we were arguing with people last season, and now this season, it's been the complete opposite. where I'm not going to argue with anybody that Luka's a good defender. I will argue with you that he is capable of it. The difference between Luka Doncic and Trae Young, if you're just going to take one of the differences, is that Luka is capable of playing that kind of defense and chooses not to. And that Trae Young is just not. He's just too small. He is the embodiment of the too small. He just can't play that kind of defense that Luka can. He can get to that level where he's passable, where he's responsible, where he's competent, whatever word you want to use. And we saw that in this game. Luka played really well against DeJounte and against Trae Young. He finished the game with what? 2 fouls. Didn't foul either. And one of those fouls was a foul to give with about 7 seconds left in overtime that I thought was a smart foul. We saw Luka more locked in. We saw him not argue with calls as much this game. When Luka is like this, even on the second night of a back-to-back where he didn't shoot the ball well, 3 of 12 from 3, only got to the free throw line 4 times, 7 assists but 5 turnovers. This is the kind of basketball that Luka has to play in order for them to get there. Now, the rest of the roster problems still exist and all that. I can't put all this on Luka, but seeing him play like that was refreshing and a good reminder of what Luka can be and of what we saw him as last season and what we saw he was capable of last season. Josh Green, I thought played one of his good games of late. We've seen Josh Green this season. We're probably going to do multiple episodes on him in the offseason whenever that happens. Josh Green has been on a roller coaster this season where expectations for him going into the season were very, very low. Very low. He comes in the season, he plays decently well. He's hitting the 3-ball really well, gets hurt. He's out for a while. Comes back and he's okay. And then all of a sudden they make the Kyrie trade and he's like, before the Kyrie trade, he starts playing really well. And you're like, oh, he can be real part of this rotation. We got to start finding some real minutes for him. They make the Kyrie trade. He goes on that run. And then since that run where he played without Luka and Kyrie, he's just been bad. And we've just been trying to figure out, okay, what is Josh Green now? Where is his confidence? And just trying to figure out where does Josh Green's confidence come from up and down. And this game was one where you saw that confidence come back. And the tell for Josh Green with his confidence is he driving with the ball? Is he taking those threes? Is he pulling up for 3? He went one of 4 from 3 in this game, but he's taking them. He's not just giving them up like we saw against the Jazz in that playoff series. We saw him drive and take some floaters. Like a sign is if he's taking 2-point shots. Really, that's kind of it. He took 5 2-point shots in this game. One of them was a dunk on a fast break, but he took some 2-point shots. Love to see that. Again, a good reminder. He finished with 13 points, 4 assists, 5 boards, played almost 40 minutes. No turnovers, 1 steal. He was a +6 in the game. Seeing Josh Green play a complete game like that was so good, so refreshing. It was so great to see that from Josh Green, and good to see that, hey, it wasn't just like a flash in the pan. He can play some solid games like this with Luka, with Kyrie, and with Luka and Kyrie on the floor too. That's going to be huge going into next season. Oh, I could talk about so many more things from this game, but we'll save some for tomorrow. We'll have Isaac talk about it as well too. So come back tomorrow. Isaac will be back. We'll talk about this game, and of course, through the rest of the season, we'll have every post game covered for you. So Mavericks play against the Kings on Wednesday at home. Then they play the Bulls on Friday. We'll have post games for each of those. Again, we're 5 days a week, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Go check out Locked On NBA Game to Game. You'll hear from me, you hear from all the other Locked On hosts with instant reactions to their games. Again, Locked On NBA Game to Game on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs and my dog whining in the background. Peace out. Boom.